Good afternoon. Welcome to our Brian Mulroney Institute of Government Fellows and Chairs talk. For those of you that don't know me, I am Linda Harling-Stalker, the director of the Mulroney Institute. Today we meet in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people who have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. As we listen to these stories that flow around the Epstein Files, let us not also forget our own national history around murdered and missing Indigenous women as we go forward. I have the honor of welcoming Dr. Lavinia Stan, the inaugural Victor Dadele Chair in Democracy and Governance here at the Brian Mulroney Institute of Government. As you notice, I don't have any notes because Dr. Stan is famous, well-known, and goes without much introduction needed for those of you that know her here on campus. Dr. Stan is an expert in transitional justice and is a sought-after expert with the UN, European Union, Canadian government, and a whole host of others that go on and on. She will be bringing this afternoon her expertise in post-Soviet Eastern European society and the fallout from the breaking up of those Eastern European communist countries. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Stan to the stage.
Thank you very much. This must be good because even my kid showed up. Yeah. So look, and Asa, we have some. So hi there. Just for you, we were keeping this seat for you. Let me first say that there are lots of people, lots of students here who took my classes, and I want to start with a disclaimer. This is not really a presentation on elites and their role in democracy. We can talk about that. But definitely there are more knowledgeable experts on campus who can illuminate that topic. This is even Dr. Joseph is here, so I must be really important. Yeah? This is not really discussion of conspiracy theories that go with the release of information or private information. Although there is a lot of discussion about this, how much is truth, how much is not, what kind of theories you can spin, yeah? This is also not a talk about who's in the file. I know for sure that Dr. Yvon Grenier is not because I Googled. I searched for his name. There is no Grenier. There is no Grenier in the. I searched for Dr. Bickerton and for Dr. Ellen and for all my colleagues, yeah, because I wanted a dirty thing on them. No luck, yeah. So indeed, we can have a discussion. Who's in the files? What different governments have done with the information in the files? You might not know that in Europe, everybody is incensed. In North America, it's like business as usual, yeah? But other countries have started real inquiries. Politicians have been arrested. Politicians got, committed suicide. If you look at what happens in Norway, for example, Slovakia, Poland have major inquiries, yeah. I don't want to talk about that, yeah. And also, this is not a discussion about democratic backsliding. We talked in class quite a bit, yeah. I see that students know what is democratic backsliding and how this kind of very influential business people, although we can discuss what the heck was Epstein. Was he a businessman? Was he a banker? Was he whatever, and their undue influence on democratic institutions and how this contributes to democratic backsliding, which is this very scary political trend that we are living in the world, I would say, and means that democracy, as one of the famous scholars of democratic backsliding wrote, democracy is consuming itself, yeah? And it's the quality of democracy is affected by this leaks, yeah. So I don't want to hook up in the topic this way. I just want to provide you with a perspective of somebody who dealt with big archive or big dumps of information, of documents. We've been doing this for 35 years in Eastern Europe. We've had these conspiracy theories and everybody jumping and let me search the neighbor and let me search my friend and let me search my enemy and let me search my neighbor and everybody just and to access the document and what the documents are saying. Yeah. So I think my point of view and my claim in this talk is that we do have something at the end of 35 years experience. Kind of we have some advice to give to people who are now starting this process with the Epstein Files. Yeah? Now, this is, to my surprise, there have been quite a number of surveys conducted in the US on the files on the dump and its significance. And pretty much they say this is significant. We are interested, but at the same time, if you look at the discussion takes place on social media, yeah? Very little in the mainstream mass media and more with different people on the social media, looking at the files and, making revelations. Yeah, I found this and I found that. Yeah, this is, I'm all for democratizing analysis. Yeah, but actually this is a flawed or risky type of analysis, because when you come with no background, when you don't really know how to look at documents and court depositions and stuff, you might misinterpret things. Yeah. This is kind of the what is the Epstein library? Close to 3.5 million pages, 180,000 photos, and in the thousands of the videos. We know that this is not the entire collection in the hands of the American government. Yeah, this is it. Some people are saying it's a substantial fraction of what they have, but with all these archives that whose contours we are shifting and nobody really researched, we don't really know whether they released the most information first. Yeah. It started, it is based on the so-called Epstein Files Transparency Act. It started in December 2025, actually, with 2 small dumps, and then it kind of trickled through February. Yeah. And the general characteristics, you look at the page, these are screenshots of the page. Yeah. And you see that filter, very little. Actually, you just answer yes or no if you are an adult, yeah, or not, yeah. There is no kind of verification of that information. So I might be a 3-year-old kid And if I, yeah, if I say, yeah, I'm an adult, I get access to everything. This is quite atypical of the information dumps we know to date, yeah. And also, yeah, the general characteristics is that this this archive, you can say, is not ordered in any chronological order. Yeah, you get only the number of the file. Yeah, and the way they sort themselves together, it's even the president of the university is here, so I must be really important. Yeah,
So interesting.
but we don't have a chair. For it.
That's the file.
This is what you get for being late.
Apologies for interrupting.
Okay, so although there is the search function, this is it, and you can try your hand, yeah. The information, the way it sorts in the search is not really helpful, yeah. You have to, the numbers of the files are not reflective of the content of the file. So pretty much you have to go file by file, yeah, which is very cumbersome if you think about it, yeah. I think in my short description of the talk, I said that this is the biggest dump. That's not correct, yeah, and I don't know why I wrote that, yeah. But I blame it on Anna, who pushed me, give me something today. Yeah, this is not the biggest dump, but it is, if I understand correctly, the biggest in the Western region done by a government. Yeah. But we do have the so-called Pandora Papers, the Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers. So leaks from bank accounts, and there is, of course, sensitive information and very personal information, if you think about it. But those were not released officially, yeah, by any government. They were leaks. They were stolen from the government and leaked to the population. Okay, here. What's the time frame? Very unclear. So usually when we look at the archives, we want to know some things, yeah? And we don't have historians here, but when you go into an archive, you would like a general sense of when were the documents produced, yeah? Between which dates and what kind of time period they talk about, yeah? We don't really know. It's all over the place, yeah? So we don't know the date of the first and the last document, yeah? It excludes national security interest files. This is limitation that carries everything that the government does, yeah? So all the governments, when they give you information, they will say, I'm giving you this information because it does not touch on national security, but with the implication that whatever is relevant, whatever might hurt the national security, yeah, I'm keeping for myself. This in every, and I've written on this national security in the legislation, it's never clearly defined. So ultimately, it is in the eye of the beholder of the state government, yeah, to decide what touches on and what doesn't touch on this security, yeah. Excludes also information about pending investigations. It is unclear whether other agencies besides the Department of Justice and the FBI have documents, photos, and what is the regime of that information. We don't know for now. Yeah. In terms of privacy, this is another thing that is very important when information from the government is disclosed. Governments, every government that claims to be democratic, will have to respect the right to privacy. What happens in the Epstein case is that often the names of victims are there for everybody to see, and the names of victimizers are blackened out, which again is something that is not really helping transparency. 3,000 documents have been taken out to date as a result of complaints from the victims. And we know and we've seen, it's on the YouTube, members of the Congress can go to the Department of Justice and they can see the document and with every information in it, including the identity of the names that are blackened out for the public. General organization, this is their general organization. I don't know how to interpret it, pretty much. It's this is how they decided to classify the information, and the name of the file will make reference, to these various data sets, with the first 8 investigative records. The data set 9 is private emails of Epstein and associates, internal correspondence. Number 10 is images and videos, and number 11 and 12 are a lot of financial ledgers, flight to manifestos for the private planes. They had lots of them. You read page after page. Of course, you have to recognize the names pretty much. Where do I come in? Why is this very interesting for me? Because as I said, we've done this for 35 years. When communism collapsed in Eastern Europe, that was at the end of 45 years of communism, a communist regime that instituted a mass surveillance program. Mass surveillance means that the so-called political police, what we call the intelligence services, which are divided in democratic countries among FBI and CIA and some others, with some including agents and spies and informers domestically, others foreign, and others you can have military and some other things out there. In communism, the intelligence, I don't like this term because it wasn't intelligent at all, believe me. Is that intelligence was a monopoly. So when you hear KGB, or Aiden, Sigurini, you know what I'm talking about in Albania, Sigurini, Stasi, Stefan. So when you hear this, these are monopolies of intelligence, meaning they had departments, one for internal repression, one for, or many, for foreign espionage, military intelligence, guard and guarding the leaders of the Communist Party, telecommunications, opening the correspondence, etc., whatever. They had disinformation also. They had a department of disinformation responsible for jokes. Jokes about the communist leaders to kind of help the population vent frustration. Before they got into the idea, instead of a joke, I should go in the street and really scream and really, ask for a collapse of the communist regime. So in 1989, as the communist regimes collapsed in Eastern Europe, there was a huge secret archive in any of the Eastern European countries you can think of, and of course, in the former Soviet Union, yeah, in all the republics of the Soviet Union, yeah, and there was a huge discussion at the time, yeah, with some people like Father Joachim Gauck, yeah, who said we were subject to repression and dictatorship because of the imbalance of information between, yeah, the victims and the people who informed on them. And the people who informed these repressive apparatus, intelligence community, used two types of people. Agents, always with military rank. They were full-time employed with KGB. Yeah? All the salary was coming from the KGB. They actually had even a uniform. It looked like the armed forces, but it was a little bit different. Yeah? These people were under the obligation to identify the enemies of the state from among the population, because the intelligence services community of the communist countries were protecting the regime against the people, not the country against infiltration from foreign agents. Yeah? And how they were doing this, identification of enemies of the people with mass surveillance. And mass surveillance implied that we know now, each one of the officers, of the secret officers, had to have a network, information network active, yeah, of at least 50 informers at any given time. We know this. They had quotas, yeah, work quotas, yeah, and this was their work quotas, yeah. So you had to recruit, yeah, you had to have a legend to you recruit, and he is becoming my informer. Excuse me, yeah, it's not about you, but because he was friend or work or colleague or relative of the target I was interested to find information about. Yeah. So informers were part-timers with the intelligence community. Yeah. Some of them did it for money. Some of them, one guy in Romania, actually, he asked for a PhD degree. I didn't know. Another, they wanted promotion. Another, they wanted visas to visit their relatives abroad. I mean, there are so many. Some of them were doing it for patriotic reasons. A variety. Yeah. So 1989 comes. You have this massive archive with millions. Yeah. In Romania, and Romanians are messy, believe me. Yeah, they are not Germans. Yeah, so take it for granted that they destroyed and they misplaced and they, a lot of document already. The secret archive was 25 linear kilometers in length. If you put all the documents one next to the other, 25 kilometers. In East Germany was even more. Yeah? So we have this huge discussion with Father Joachim Gauck saying, I want to do justice. If you really are not another communist regime and you are democratic, the essence of democracy is to stop this mass surveillance. And how do you stop them? By making everything available to the public, because a spy who is known to everybody is no longer a spy. An informer is no longer an informer. That's the surest thing to stop the mess. Yeah. And others, even members of the, of the new democratic governments of Eastern Europe saying, just a second, these are documents produced by the state. Yeah, for the benefit of the state, according to the legislation and rules at the time. Yeah, this is our property. Why would I give it to the population? It will create so much, of a ruckus and a scandal that we won't be busy, constructing democracy. We will kill each other here. Yeah. So all kinds of arguments. The Russians were very forceful. This is state property. That's it. KGB, we cannot risk, disclosure of names. In Germany, in unified Germany, Joachim Gauck won the argument. Yeah, and Germany was the first, and then one by one, every country allowed ordinary citizens like me to go to the secret archive and to ask, do you have any kind of information about me? Of course, if you are a secret informer, they have. It's not the secret informers who are going to ask, could you show me what you have in the archive? They know exactly what they did. Yeah, it's the suckers, the victims, the victims. And this is an unprecedented step in the history of humanity. Why? Because here in Canada, to have access to any archival document, you have to wait for decades. This is the regime of documents, archival regime of documents in democracies, not in new democracies, just out of communism. Yeah, and in some cases you have to wait 70 years after the guy or girl in the document is dead. Pretty much, democratic countries are telling you, suck it up, you die, I will show your kids, your grandkids, this marvelous document, for a lot of reasons, So we had that discussion and we had the disclosure of the information. And it was a big dump. It was actually an enormous dump compared to Epstein. Epstein is nothing. And that was done in Jurassic Park. Remember? That was before the internet. This is incredible that we can live without the internet and without all of this, but this is exactly what was done. So it just happens that I'm one of in Romania, I was the first, illegally, I might say, but that's another. I don't want the president, to get ideas, but I got into the secret archive, and I've seen things. You're on the muzzle, of releasing information to the public unless you are doing a solid research. So it's not for fun, And the consequences in Eastern Europe ran the gamut, Based on the files, we had the so-called lustration, vetting. Denazification, you can imagine denazification, but based on the files, You were in some categories documented by the file, out from government, out from electoral lists, out from anything that received government funding. Others went to the archive. I found my secret file, and I have to say, I am not interested. And when I was 22, 23, you saw my file, in the classroom, I always say, this is exactly why communism collapsed, because they were wasting personnel, money, time on non-cases like me, I would like to tell you, I was the, most active dissident, and I was coward. I was a young person trying to carve a life in a very, very curious or, repressive circumstance. So I don't have anything to my credit, unfortunately for me, to say, wow, but I have a file, and it's not thin file. It's quite, for the fact that, it doesn't, it has nothing behind it. It's quite a big file. Yeah. Anyway, so in all that discussion, yeah, historians and people in transitional justice like me, because access to secret files is part of transitional justice, is one method that we use. Yeah, we started to ask questions. Yeah, and some of these questions are how to read. Yeah, what is real and what is the filtered through the eyes of the people who wrote the files. Yeah, how much the victim can reflect the life, yeah, in these files. Why the victimizers were doing it? What kind of information was passed? Yeah, what kind of circumstances? How it was interpreted by the case officers? Yeah, what is truth? Yeah, truth, justice, reconciliation are the pillars of transitional justice. Yeah, and truth, we claim that truth is so important. What's the truth? What's the truth? If I read my secret file, yeah, the informers present me, and I had 16 around me. Yeah, very busy. Some of them very busy. Yeah, and I'm reading their notes, and it's like it's shocking. Yeah, she's arrogant. I invited myself to her apartment and she refused me. I refused. In what polite society, for God's sake, you invite yourself in somebody else's house, and it's my fault. Huh? It was always my fault, because once a determination, and we can talk about socialist legality, Scheukenbrod is not here, Dr. Scheukenbrod, but he knows everything about that. Yeah. So this is kind of the questions is access instrumentalized? How much access is determined by political calculations of the various parties or politicians in power, in opposition, yeah, and how much is based on a real desire to find out what happened in the past and to give justice to the victims. But this is one layer of the information dump that took place in Eastern Europe. Another layer, and in this respect, I have to say, I'm the only one who wrote about it. It's the stealing of information it's the Panama Papers before the Panama Papers. Yeah. It's the stealing of information from the archives, yeah, in frustration that the names of the informers are not released to the public quickly enough. Yeah? And some people say, you know what? I'm copying on a stick or whatever, yeah, and I'm releasing all of this on the internet. UDBA, this is Yugoslavia, people. Yeah, that was the most massive. Yeah, was massive because it was a release of names. 2.5 million names in Yugoslavia with secret files, where you could search. Yeah? You could search on the internet and you could read the file. The problem was that whoever stole, because how do you steal? Very quickly, yeah, and when nobody, yeah, you don't care about the niceties and the details. So they stole, and when they put everything on the internet, they realized that they did not sort the informers from the victims and the case officers. So there was 2.5 million names. You knew that there is some information, but you didn't know whether that information portrayed the person, yeah, a victim or a victimizer. And you see that I'm talking in these terms because usually this is the terms we use. Yeah, this is from my secret files, just to show you that the right to privacy is respected there too. It's in Romanian. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't show it to you. Yeah, you would understand. You would know. You would know. Yeah. But this is kind of an excerpt from one of my letters I was writing to my aunt in Constanța on the seaside, and I was complaining about the regime. You know, look at all these idiots, and I'm writing idiots. Yeah, all these idiots who are doing this and that, and first I wasn't that intelligent when I was young. Let me put it this way. And then this is a form that is that was sent by my case officer to other departments of the Securitate. Securitate is the Romanian KGB to ask for information about me, and you see that the names and addresses of third parties are called, are blackened out. Anyway, so how I structured this is the introduction. Let me go into the meat of my presentation. Yeah. So how I structured it into 5 lessons. Yeah. I could come up with 10, but I said that 5 is enough. Yeah. The 5 that are relevant for Western countries and the Epstein Files as well. Yeah. And the first one is that if you watch social media, most of the focus is Andrew, is Trump, who is in, who is out, is Clinton, how is Clinton? All of these, actually, these are not the victims. Yeah. And if we learned something, is that this exercise should have the victims as the focal point of this exercise. Yeah. And why is that? Because it is for the victims to get justice and trust. Yeah. The victimizers know what they did. Yes, for our own entertainment, another topic. Yeah. It's for the government to take action, to activate its courts, its law enforcement agencies, whatever, to act on the information, to see if the information amounts to a prosecution, to an indictment. But all of us should keep the victims our focus. Here, it just happened that one former professor in our department, Dr. Frank Harrison, he bought this book, $40, and I thought that I should show it. I didn't read it, but it's from the main victim, the 17-year-old girl who is in the photo with Prince Andrew. Yeah, she committed suicide. Yeah, she committed suicide of the pressure and as a result of everything else. Yeah, and that was so the victims. This is lesson 2, people. Keeping the victims, the focus on the victims. Yeah, we know that in the case of Epstein, you have apparently around 1,000 girls and women who are at the receiving end. Many of them, there are investigations now in Eastern Europe and Russia, official investigations, because apparently these were the countries that supplied a lot of the women. We don't know whether most of the women but we know a lot of the women. Yeah? So those governments have made a point in looking at this thing. Another lesson is that in the case of Eastern Europe, and I suspect, also in the case of Epstein, the worst will come last. Yeah? In the sense that the very sensitive documents will not be released at the beginning. They will be released at the end of the end, yeah, when there is no other argument that the government can do, yeah, and it has to release as a result, yeah. In Eastern Europe, these are photos from the Stasi in Normannstrasse in Berlin, in East Berlin, when the protesters on 8th of November, 9th of November, yeah, they stormed the headquarters of Stasi. They went into the archives. We said, oh, yeah, we didn't know this, yeah. But what they found, and it's very interesting, they found the files. The files is like you go to the library, stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. Yeah, this is how it looks. Yeah, but they also found 10,000 bags of shredded material. Yeah, I told you in class. Yeah, I always say, if this was Romania, it would be a mess. But the Germans are the Germans. Yeah, correct, Stefan? Yeah. So they took one piece of paper, they put it in the shredder. These are the old shredders, yeah, the Jurassic Park type of shredders, long strips of paper, yeah. And the German, who's a German, took all the shreds and put them in one bag. The Romanians would have, in 10,000 bags. It's impossible to put them together, yeah. And also, yeah, and some of my students know, they found a very curious room with transparent jars with this orange cloth in them, the smell jars. When you were brought to interrogation, you were put on a special chair. They were telling you, sit like this, yeah? Because your scent was taken into that felt. It looked like felt, orange, yeah? After you, they would collect the orange cloth and put it in a jar. In case you were arrested and you got ideas to jump the fence, huh? They would search you with the dogs. And that would be very important in the search. Huh? So they found all of this, and now we know, because for decades, the so-called puzzlers put together the shreds, the shredded material. The shredded material was way more important than the things, the documents left on the shelves. Yeah? And if you think logically about it, yes, of course. Yeah? If I were in that situation, I would jump to destroy what incriminates me, what can lead me to problems. The puzzlers in the early 1990s were children or women, because you need very fine fingers to put together the things. And then they had a contract with IBM and they solved everything. Yeah. So this is how we know that the importance, yeah, in the operative value, you can say, of the documents that are stashed away, that are kept, that are destroyed, that are kept behind, yeah, is way more than the importance of the dump that is given to the public. Yeah? And I remember that we talked to Yvonne. In Romania, they tried to burn. You don't know, I didn't know, that to burn thousands of secret files, yeah, dossiers, with no, I mean, when they were very dense, it was impossible. Yeah. So they dumped them into a forest in the Carpathian Mountains. They left, yeah. And then the peasants in the neighboring village said, "Oh my God, look what I found. And it's more of it, let's go, let's have Yeah, and they were alcohol is very high. Yeah, also, so they had a fun conversation based on the secret Securitate files, of course, unredacted. Yeah, with the private information of other people reflected in the file. And when I'm saying private information, it runs the gamut. As with the Epstein files, it runs the gamut. Yeah? So because the communist regimes they wanted to blackmail them. So adultery, incest, homosexuality, of course, because they were anti. Yeah, even long beard was you don't they had a problem with it. Yeah, so you have the level of private information. Sometimes you don't want to go there. Yeah, it's too much for you. Yeah? The third is the politicization of the process, and you see it in the U.S. Huh? You see it in the U.S. Why my guy and not yours? Yeah, and it's like Clinton. This is actually CBC. Yeah, where it's like, why should we drag, yeah, Clinton to tell us stuff when the person of the other party is not? It was always like this in Eastern Europe. Yeah? Why? Because we say in transitional justice, the politics of the present overtook the politics of the past. It was about the present. It was not about the past any longer. And the same here. It's not about the victims. Yeah, it's not about the victims and how you can strengthen rule of law and make investigation into traffic and police miscarriage and court miscarriage of justice is no longer. It's about my party versus your party. Which one has more or fewer of these nasty people? Huh? And this is a slippery slope. You might think that in the short run, this is better for your party, but in the long run, this delegitimizes the entire exercise. What means collaboration? I think the numbers are wrong. Yeah, I saw twice too. Yeah. What means collaboration? In the case of Epstein, what means the fact that you were friends with Epstein and you partook in his entertainment or whatever he was doing there? Yeah. What is collaboration? What is not? Yeah. This is a fundamental question in transitional justice, but also a fundamental question to understand who is in what type of category. Yeah? There are degrees of involvement. There are degrees of victimization. Yeah? Yes, I've seen a documentary on with some of the victims. Yeah. And one of the girls, yeah, was saying, I was so desperate for him not to look at me, yeah, that I was recruiting other girls in my high school and bringing them to Epstein. Actually, yeah, actually, you are a victim, but now you are also a victimizer. Yeah? So this thing, who's the full victim or only a victim? When you have two heads, yeah. When you are in the other category, these are very, very tricky, and they must be treated with caution, yeah. And the courts, I hope, if they go, into any kind of action, they will treat these questions with caution, yeah. Culpability is difficult to establish, yeah. Overall, in Eastern Europe, the custodians are called. The memory institutes are the custodians of the secret archives. 35 years after, 35 years of releasing, of making public this information, I can tell you one thing, a lot of scandal, huh? Very little action. And from what I see, the US is going the same direction. Huh? Not necessarily other countries in Europe. Huh? It was, I think, in many respects, it was more shocking in Europe. Yeah, and the Europeans were more eager to take action, to start court trials, to start investigations. I am appalled of the silence that is here. Silence is never good, yeah, because it's just it can be treated by indifference, yeah, and allows in the absence of state action, in the absence of courts and the police, and you know, and you can say yes, but he had that special bargain that none of the conspirators, even those not named, got pretty much amnesty. Yeah, you can say yeah. This is why we have this amnesties. Excuse me. Yeah, even in Latin America, yeah, amnesties were given and retracted because at the end of the day, it is the government to decide. And what looks like the common good and the common interest at one point, yeah, and something that strengthens the rule of law might not look the same, yeah, 10 years or 1 year down the road, yeah. So again, the risk here is that very few of those who really perpetrated, yeah, and I understand that some I didn't look in the files because I don't really I didn't have time, and I'm not sure that I have the guts or the heart to look at the very serious documents and videos there, but I understand that some of the material is quite shocking, yeah. And it's then if the material is shocking, I would say it's equally shocking that a state is not activating itself to do something about it. And this is for the students, yeah. There is a lot of talk about compromise, that Jeffrey Epstein was an agent, a Russian agent, or a Mossad agent, and he was actually involved in compromising information. The last case of compromise we had was this woman, Anna Chapman. Yeah, Anna Chapman, her was exchanged in 2010. Yeah, it was an exchange of spies between Russia and the US in Vienna. Yeah, Kuschenko is her real name, the father of former KGB officer. Yeah? So she marries with a Brit who died meanwhile. Oh, so convenient. So convenient. He died 30-something years old. Oh, okay. Yeah, Putin got him. She was from the UK. She moves to US, and in US, they had information that she was about to start. It was all planned, yeah, a honey trap with one of the members of the Obama administration. Huh? They had information. The Americans had information. She had set everything, and the honey trap was about to be put into action. And at that point, she's approached by a guy who, under a disguise, it was an FBI agent, entices her to accept a fake passport, and he uses code names. Yeah, when and she is arrested. Yeah, and she spends sometimes, but rather quickly, she is exchanged 8th of April of July 2010 in Vienna. She is one of the 10 who return to Russia against 10 Americans who've been spying in Russia and they returned home. Yeah? In Russia, Putin sets the red carpet. She is becoming, look at her, the red bombshell. Yeah. The head of the youth branch of Putin's United Russia Party. Huh? That's you need to be really important. Yeah, celebrating as the biggest hero, our biggest spy. You know, look at all these Westerners, what they do to us. You know, and she is a TV celebrity. She becomes a political celebrity. Yeah, and the main how to say accomplishment in her track record is the fact that she set up the honey trap. The first honey trap, sometimes, I mean, sometimes they are called, she was an illegal. The Americans, if you want to watch the binge watch The Americans, yeah, it's very interesting. That's about illegals. People usually with the identity of a dead kid, yeah? A real identity in the US, Russians speaking not like me with accent. Yeah? No, they speak fluent English. They know everything. They are given money. They are planted in communities, and they with to gather information. That's one level. Honey trap is a compromat type of operation because by using sexual things, they put you in a compromising position so that they blackmail you. This is exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Yeah, and there are reports that he met with I don't know whoever banker in London. Yeah, and he said, by the way, yeah, at the end of the year, it was a professional meeting, and at the end of it, Jeffrey Epstein says, by the way, I'm going to get a massage. Do you love massages? You know, and this guy, yeah, who gives the interview says, and I could see through the open door a young girl at the massage table. And immediately I thought, that's an underage person. I'm not getting involved in this. But that was for videos, photos, etc. We know, and some of you who were in my classes, yeah, we know that the first honey trap was set up by Stalin. And we know this because there was a damn documentary made by the Russians, but I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet any longer. Yeah, the Russians, based on the KGB files, they made this reenactment of the first honey trap operation under Stalin. It was directly supervised by Stalin. 22 young girls. Big and beautiful, yeah, Trump says, yeah, so very nice. I mean, bombshells, yeah. They were trained in this very secretive, very tough program, yeah. Part of it was with psychologists to help them dissociate sex from feelings. Yeah? That was an eliminatory stage of the honey trap operation, yeah. To understand how to offer sexual services without having any emotion in that thing, because they were not there for emotion. Yeah? They were there to get to the fights. Yeah. So this compromise, and you see it connected to the Epstein files. It's a long story, you know, but it has the basis are successful deployment of compromat by not only the KGB, yeah, Romanians. I'm very happy to report that Mihai Karaman, who was a super spy like Marcus Wolf. Stefan, you know, Marcus Wolf was the Stasi legend. Yeah? He cracked everything. Yeah? Mihai Karaman, the Romanian, yeah? Recruited the Karaman network, 13 secretaries, assistant, whatever, small department heads in the first NATO headquarters. The Romanians made so much damage that they had to close the building and to move to another country. This is how Karaman, he was larger than life in spy stories. Yeah. So honey traps, they had 10 wives at the same time. Yeah. And let me be clear. Yeah. It was not that only women were doing it to male diplomats, politicians and stuff. We have the so-called Romeos. Yeah? The Romeos were men who were doing it, women. Yeah. And the last is my revenge card. Let me put it this way. I might not get you through the court trials. Yeah? I might not get you with the law enforcement. Yeah? You might not have, you might not crawl into the court to explain yourself and to be punished for what you did. Yeah? But social ostracism is as bad. Yeah? So in our case, in Eastern Europe, it's like, it's even more effective than a court. And here is this nice woman, a member of the Romanian Senate, the biggest liberal, member of the Liberal Party in Romania. Yeah? Somebody goes into the secret archive, yeah, finds a file. She was a university professor, and she was spying on her students, and you won't believe, she is kicked out of Romanian politics. Yeah, I'm not spying on you, by the way. This guy, yeah, Laszlo Rákóczi, is another case when, again, he is, his name is revealed to the public that he was an informer for AVO, that's the Hungarian thing, yeah, KGB. They cannot, the level of the evidence in the file did not amount to indictment. But the name was in the public domain. So the high school where his daughter was studying, the teachers took it upon themselves to gather the entire, all the students and to make, yeah, a case of the daughter. And it was so bad that the entire family had to move to another town because that town and that high school said, you were here. You gave information about us in the abstract. Yeah, this doesn't sit well with us. Yeah, and you've been lying and lying and lying for years. And this nice guy is the former prime minister of Hungary, Peter Medgyessy, or something like this pronounced. Yeah. And again, he is unveiled as a former informer. So these were the part-timers. Huh? And he pretty much loses his own entire political career, and no party wants to have anything to do with him. So I would say, this is like a trap of transitional justice, because we do transitional justice to strengthen rule of law, correct? That's our mantra. You need to look at the past. You need to look at the dump of information, because We want to strengthen rule of law. We want a better police, a better court, better elites, better democratic system. When we cannot do that, yeah, we resort to stuff that is not nice, that is not democratic, that infringes the privacy of the person, that might, in the name of the mother, they they oppress the kid. Yeah. So this is it. My grand conclusion is that probably we will the curiosity will dampen in time. Yeah. There will be dedicated people, and I hope that not only in the social media but also in the government institutions. This is what you need. Yeah, actually. So that this trove of information is put to good use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stan. So we have about 20 minutes or so available for questions. Anybody wants to ask Dr. Stan anything? Explain it all.
I don't know where to start, I don't know. It's a hot potato, yeah? It's a hot potato. I don't want to go there. I have to say, let me say this, yeah? I searched in the database. I searched Canada, yeah? Then I searched Trudeau. And it's the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport in Montreal. A lot of them, yeah? Then I searched Romania. I didn't know that constantly. It's like 1,000 mentions of Ion Nicola. It's like, who the heck is Ion Nicola? Yeah, a Romanian name, yeah? And I'm asking in my friends in Bucharest, yeah? And I say, do you have a businessman, a banker, yeah? No, he's the guy who's repairing the interior design on the islands in other properties for Epstein. So you have a lot of Romanian, yeah? Romania features a lot, but because of this Ion Nicola guy, there is a young Romanian university professor at Princeton, you won't believe, who is, according to the Epstein Files, arranging for bank transfers of $10,000. And by now we know that $10,000 was the price of one girl. Yeah? And this young person, university professor at Princeton, she's arranging bank transfers in Iași, in the in the least developed region of Romania. Yeah, so there is an investigation, as I said, one in Russia, one in Slovakia, one in Poland, yeah, to get to the bottom, because apparently these are the countries that supplied the victims. Joseph.
Thank you for a very, very informative and entertaining talk. What strikes me is that, we have just about every other country except our very nasty neighbor to the south seems to be doing something, either investigating or demoting people or firing people or jailing people, whatever. Americans seem not to care because, nothing has happened to anybody really. And they're not even taken to the streets. Someone said to me, well, there were 6 or 7 million Locals rally. I mean, we talked about this last time. There should be 50 million,
Exactly.
But why? Is it because the East European nations, Poland and Romania and others, is it because they've had this history that they seem to care, or is it simply because they're more aware or more desirous of wanting to know things and to do things about them? Because, as I say, I don't think anybody in the US cares.
I agree, and we have a U.S. specialist, in our midst here. And another one, just a second, we have another one there, and they can give us, perspective on that. Eastern Europe, I mean, I was talking with Linda, yeah? Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, came out publicly and said, we will start this official investigation to see whether Epstein was engaged in KGB-like, and he was a KGB agent. And actually, in Eastern Europe, everybody was saying, you, Donald Tusk, who returned to Poland from Toronto, you lived too long in Toronto, and you didn't notice that KGB is no longer around, yeah? Because if he is the agent of Russia, he cannot be of KGB. We do not have KGB around. KGB in 1991 was broken along the lines of the former directorates. So this is why you have FSB, SB, whatever, So Donald Tusk should know, somebody from Eastern Europe should know already that KGB is no longer there. But I think that if I understand correctly, it was Eastern Europe who screamed the first time, this is compromat. This is compromat. Yeah. So the Western media said, oh, what is compromat? Let's document the compromat. Yeah. Because compromat was, you have it as an example in every damn communist country you can think of. Yeah. So it's so close to the generations, the old generations, the younger generations like me. Yeah, so you remember, yeah, you remember this blackmail, you stash information for blackmailing purposes. The other thing I think what's going on in Eastern Europe is you have the war very close to you. Yeah? The war in Ukraine is very close to you. Russia is in your face. So everything that involves Russia is not, one ocean here, another ocean here, whatever, maybe the Chinese did it, maybe you don't have that luxury. It's in your face. In the first semester, I think I told one of my classes, yeah, I have friends from Estonia, for example, yeah. In November, everybody in Estonia, she said, professor at Tartu University, yeah? She said, I am 1 hour drive from the border with Russia. Yeah, we have a luggage, yeah, as when you are supposed to go to maternity to deliver, we have that luggage. It's ready at all times because this is not Nordic countries received the notification. Yeah, you received it in Denmark too.
Yeah, we will. But fortunately, we are lucky that we are close to the west, so Great Britain will be able to react, and Norway and Sweden will also be able to react to it. So we won't be as threatened as President Poland will be.
Yeah. Polish people receive notifications. Prepare for war. Yeah, prepare. I'm a reserve. I have a military training from communist Romania. Yeah. Throw the bomb this way because we don't like the Americans, and throw the bomb this way because we don't like the Soviets either. Ceausescu was alone in that thing. Yeah, but the reserve, the people in the reserve force were notified in Romania too. Stand by. So this proximity of the Russian bear, and look what they might do in the West. Do you think that they didn't do it first in the East? This is how logic, yeah. So it's always Yeah, yeah. If they're interested in the in all these bank people and Prince Andrew, my God, I mean, really, Prince Andrew is nothing in geostrategic terms if you think about it. Yeah, he's a zero. Yeah, so of course they have information on us. They have information on the others inside. Dr. Dreamy.
Yes, I have a question, yeah. Since we're talking about Eastern Europe versus here, in Eastern Europe and Soviet Union, they spied on professors and students. The universities can be potentially hotbed of competition. And in the US, it looks like he compromised a lot of people in universities. Larry Summers is a big name. It's not just a university person, he's also a politician, but also he gave money to folks who have labs. And he promised lots of money to university president. Most of the time, he didn't follow through, actually. But why would he do something like this? Because he's not interested in spying on them. They don't really. I don't quite understand.
It could, our specialist in US.
A lot of the funding universities work for like race science or measuring cranium, like bizarre.
How do you call that?
It's also considered like weird, like racist stuff as well. Part of being a child sex predator, he's also a racist. So a lot of the funding was toward weird science stuff that I don't think was wrong with the funding, but it was purely a really generation. Like, I don't know, there's some comments from campus left system. People don't Chomsky in the file.
Oh, yeah, no.
The best interviews when we don't do that.
But it was not from power.
It's just, it's fine, and you want to fund, you just, thinkers.
Yeah, but I would say, sometimes the more you know, the more people you know, the more access you can have. Yeah, through them, you never know how this uninteresting university professor might give you access to this big politician, yeah, or this big banker who. Yeah, so I don't think that anybody knows because nobody did the serious research on this thing. But I will encourage the US specialists to do. Actually, to think about it.
We have time for maybe one more question. Yes. You mentioned that many European countries were also involved with the trials. I'm from France, and it was actually revealed that a lot of politicians are in the files. And I was wondering, the public perception of that was very different from what we can expect. Actually, many people try to conceal it completely, not talk about it. The media didn't talk about the Epstein Files at all. And I was wondering, to what do you think we owe that difference with Eastern Europe?
No, I don't know what's going on with this. Maybe Emmanuel Macron's shades at Davos. Because everybody was talking about it. But in France, if I understand, and maybe you won't. There are big, not only the head of the modeling agency who was supplying girls, him who he committed suicide some years ago while also in prison. Whatever. Yeah, there's a big name, but also you have these politicians who I don't know because you cannot say Western countries were disinterested. It's France is disinterested because UK, they did quite a lot. So I'm not sure whether it's I really don't know.
Well, I don't know any particular name, but one thing I could say, perhaps, I don't agree with that, but that in France they think of privacy as very important, and infringement on privacy of even politicians is chronic and seen as a bad Anglo-Saxon sin. Like Lavinia Files, you can have this mistress living with him for decades and a daughter, and nobody will talk about it. And so it's an old Maybe you would have.
Or Francois Hollande, he was jumping on the motorcycle and going, from Matignon to the mistress, and nobody was blinking an eye, yeah?
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe there is a moral dimension in the sense that, sexual trespassing is not as publicly condemned in France, and it's more of an English
Yeah.
language type of, I don't know. Interesting, huh?
So would you say that Eastern Europeans hold their pollutions more accountable than the rest of the world?
Definitely not.
No, there is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of political instrumentalization, yeah? And it might be, yeah, it's like, we don't need to read this Europe in the key that, Donald Tusk and the others want to find the truth, yeah? And they want to give justice to the victims. No, they want to see how we find use, yeah, this scandal, yeah, against you, the opposition. Sounds very interesting now. Yeah? So and they've done it. They've done it with the secret files, and they know how to do it very successfully, actually. Dr. Victor.
Yeah, I think I mean, you pointed out that there's a lot more files in the Eastern European cases. But this is one man, not filed on millions of people. This is one man we're talking about. I mean, it boggles the mind, really. I mean, how many connections this man made in that course of time. And why it might not be as impactful as the Eastern European cases, it's not the state policy, what you were talking about Eastern Europe. It was the policy of the state, and the state had organized the whole thing, and millions of people affected. It was a single individual. It wasn't the state policy. That's a huge difference between those two cases.
Yeah.
And I think it inserts itself into American popular culture because it's about lives of the rich and famous.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
in American
Yeah.
popular culture. They're interested, want to see the life, but it hits at that level,
Yeah, exactly.
which I
Yeah.
think partially explains it.
This is the Kardashian. It's another type of
Yeah.
Kardashian. It's like it's completely disconnected to my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Although each one of us could have been the victims, correct?
In theory,
In
we're
theory.
not rich and
Yeah.
famous, so.
No, no, no.
Those young ones are not rich.
No, I know, but that's not the level people connect with it in popular media in the States, and that's why it hasn't had the kind of impact.
Because it's seen as an exception.
Yeah.
Because it's one
It's
of
almost
the
like people expect that of the wealthy
Yeah.
and powerful, and,
eccentric.
yeah, well,
There, he was an
But it was-
exception.
But it was different with Clinton, right? They were even trying to, when they were called them in for the deposition, whatever they called it. They were trying to bring up the, Boebert, of all people, Boebert, hand job in the theater, Boebert. He was bringing up the Monica Lewinsky again, right? Which is interesting. So, if it's a Democrat, it's fine. But if it's a rapist president, and with all these, I don't know how many, young women there are, but hundreds, I guess, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So it is, so there is a politicization for sure, but it is interesting. It's that sanctimonious attitude. They hope to, I think the hope is that we can forget about it because, that was one case. We can point to one president with one intern, versus these are unknown victims. They don't even call them victims. They don't even talk to them about them, right? So it's like the $16 glass of juice, I think, in some ways,
But you see, Joseph, my point here, my reading of the US situation is that actually it's not only the Republicans and Trump, yeah, it's not.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
actually,
There are-
Trump had,
Yeah.
if I understand correctly, had less interaction with Epstein than Clinton. Clinton went on many, Epstein donated money to the Clinton Foundation or whatever, So it's like, and you look at the discussions in the Congress, both parties are looked because they know it's not that the villains are only in this camp.
Right.
Because the other camp would make a ruckus about it, yeah? But both of them are locked, both of them have people. And then it serves both parties quite down. A Danish perspective.
Regarding to the comment on the American culture, the popular culture of pop stars and such, I would actually also argue that this issue with the Epstein Files and the need to protect the rich and powerful people instead of the ordinary people, such as us in this room, might also be a consequence of late stage capitalism, as capitalism is a society that drives on making the powerful people and the people who have some money, more capital, have an easier life than others who don't. So, like, I would argue that it also has something to do with how America, as a nation, as a structural capitalist nation, is how it prioritizes powerful people alongside with the normal people. Like we see today in America, like how easily disregarded that the ordinary people are, like with the protest in Minneapolis and such, how little regard that the people who are sitting in the administration, who are there because they're supposed to be protecting these people, don't give a shit about them at all. So I think there's some structural damage there as well that actually has some effects on how these Epstein files are looked upon. Like,
Yeah, and there are country dynamics that, again, if I understand correctly, in the UK,
Yeah.
all the anti-monarchists, it's so interesting, look at this, yeah, this is another argument why, this family who's doing nothing for us, blah, 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 yeah. But in Norway, where you have the crown princess, yeah, saying all those things and they didn't lead to an anti-monarchist discourse as virulent in the UK. So definitely country specificity needs to be taken into account, but I don't really know. Yeah, I think every country has its own dynamic, yeah, in a way.
So please join me on that note. Thanking Dr. Lavinia Stan for joining us.